That is the point I was trying to make.
Yeah, it's 297.
Not 230.
Sorry, not two, but three should be there.
Right.
I got it.
So, yeah, as long as you do that.
237 is probably something way different that we don't need to mess with. I mean, you're good. We went into 15-minute pro, 15-minute events. I can, absolutely. I'm happy to.
Everybody's attention, please. Welcome to the September 14th, 2023 public hearing of the Jefferson County Planning and Zoning Commission. The Planning and Zoning Commission is charged with regulating the subdivision of property in the unincorporated areas of Jefferson County. You will be given a decision of the commission today regarding the subdivision request, and the plat representative will receive the decision within 10 business days. Please note that any subdivision approved today is not complete. In order to complete the subdivision of your property, a final plat must be recorded in the office of the judge of probate. County staff will be coordinating with the surveyors of today's approved preliminary plats to prepare the approved plats for recording. The Planning and Zoning Commission is also charged with evaluating requests for rezoning of property and advising the County Commission for their final determination. All decisions made by the Planning and Zoning Commission regarding zoning cases are advisory only. Final determination of zoning will be made by the Jefferson County Commission in a subsequent public hearing for which all property owners within 500 feet will be notified. I ask that now, anybody has electronic devices, please silence them or turn them off, please. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Joseph Andrews.
Present.
Joel Blankenship.
Here.
Dr. Brenda Jefferson.
Here.
Cynthia Donald.
Present.
Patrick Gilbert.
Here.
Dave Miller.
Here.
Chris Middleton.
Here.
Steve Strang. Here. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Bill. Do we have a motion regarding the reading of the minutes for the August 10th, 2023 public hearing?
Mr.
You got it. You got it.
Mr. Chair, you have a motion to suspend reading of the July 13th, 2023 meetings and approve as written, made by Mr. Ziegler, second by Mr. O'Neill, and carried by a unanimous vote.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We will first hear the subdivision cases. The staff will present the case to the board. We will then call for opposition. The applicant and/or their representative may be asked to come forward at the podium and answer any questions. Let me remind you, during question and answer, you'll be limited to 15 minutes. Told you.
We can't hear you, I'm sorry. Would you use the mic, please?
I don't think your mic's on.
Thank you.
There you go. You'll be limited to 15 minutes. That's a total of 15 minutes. So if there's several people in opposition, please elect somebody to speak for you so we won't have repetitive remarks. Mr. Brown, Mr. Martin, Ms. Hughes, will y'all please present the cases? Our first case will be S23-0040.
Mr. Chairman, just as a note, I believe during that we were approving the minutes for August. I believe Dr. Dixon said
Aye.
July. I just want to make sure we get that clerically correct.
It is August.
It's August. I think you said July. Just for the record, I don't know if y'all want to.
Oh, yes, sir.
I know the intent, but
August 10th.
I don't know if you want to amend, you might want to amend that motion.
Right, I'm just making sure I have the correct date. August 10th?
That's correct.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the reading of the August 10th, 2023 minutes and approve as written, made by Mr. Ziegler, seconded by Ms. O'Neill, and carried by unanimous vote.
Do I have a second? Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Okay, case S230040. This is a proposed resurvey to create a 32-unit condominium development on an existing lot of record here in the Douglas Farms area here in Hoover. Condominiums are treated just like lots of record, so they will need approval by P&Z. As you can see, building 1, 2, and 3. Buildings 1 and 2 are 3-story with 4 units on each floor. The third, and this is the elevation here, as you can see. The third building is a 2-floor building with 4 on each floor. Staff has conducted a review. It does comply with our zoning requirements. There's a note that a traffic impact study will be required prior to issuing any permits per the zoning condition. And as well, a new street name will be required for the internal private road that's currently accessing the development. No right-of-way dedications required, no floodplain. Environmental Services has public sanitary sewer available and will have to approve and sign the final plat. Staff does recommend approval for this 32-unit condominium development.
Thanks, sir. Is there any opposition to S23-0040 on Old Columbiana Road? Any questions? Is the applicant here? Is there any questions for the applicant? Do you have anything you'd like to add? I need you to come up here. Sorry. Yes, sir.
The only thing I would add is we have commissioned a traffic study to meet the requirements of the zoning.
You're Mr.
I'm sorry, I didn't tell you my name. Joey Miller, MTTR Engineers, 3 River Chase Ridge, Hoover 35244. And we have commissioned a traffic study. We'll have it probably in a week or so.
Okay. Any questions for the commission? Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to recommend approval of case S-23-0040 for approval.
A second?
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next case is S-23-0050, applicant Mark Brandenburg in the Pinson community.
Yes, sir. This is a proposed resurvey to move a boundary line between 2 lots of record and to convey 1 acreage tract. This is Lot 3A to a lot of record for residential agriculture use. This plat was originally approved last year, lots 1 and 2, and the owner has come back to resurvey to add Lot 3 as well to move the boundary line in order to get road frontage on this Clay Palmendale Road. It basically stems from utility. It does meet our zoning requirements with the exception of it does not have 50 feet. Lots 1A and 2A did not have the required frontage. However, they did receive a variance from the Board of Zoning Adjustment to have that less than required amount. There's no anticipated road access or traffic operation issues, no right-of-way dedication required, no floodplain. Environmental Services has no public sanitary sewer, so the Health Department will have to sign the final plat. Staff does recommend approval for this resurvey.
Thank you, sir. Is the applicant here? Do you have anything you'd like to add, sir? Are there any questions for the applicant? Can I have a motion, please?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve case S-23-0055 for approval.
I have a second.
Second.
I have a motion, a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Our next case is S-23-0058, applicant Donald Kiker Patton Road, Community of Bessemer.
Yes, sir. The purpose of this subdivision is to resurvey 3 acreage tracts into 5 lots of record for residential use. See here on the tax map is faintly lined. There is 3 existing acreage tracts, and this would move it to 5 lots. So net gain of 2 lots on this street. Staff has completed a review. It does comply with all our zoning regulations. Due to the number of proposed lots on Crider Drive currently, there will be accommodation needed for a turnaround cul-de-sac on this road. So there's approximately a 90 by 90 cul-de-sac area that would have to be dedicated by a right-of-way, dedicated to the county for right-of-way. There's no floodplain here, and Environmental Services has no sewer, so the Health Department will have to approve on-site septic and sign the final plat. I do want to note that we have received 1 letter of opposition on this subdivision. Staff does recommend approval for this subdivision.
Is the applicant here? Mr. Donald G. Kiker? Any questions for the commission? Can I have a motion, please?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion for approval for case S-23-0058.
Can I have a second, please?
Second.
I have a motion, a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Our next case is S-23-0061, applicant Kevin Hinkle in the Loveless Park Loop area of Bessemer.
Yes, sir. The purpose of this resurvey is to create 1 lot of record from an existing lot. This is for residential use. The existing lot is from Loveless Park, which was recorded in 1927, so it's a very old plat, and this is essentially to bring it into compliance. So this property is existing as it is. There's a structure currently on it. Again, the county was not always enforcing subdivision regulations decades ago, and so a lot of these surveys exist and need to be brought into compliance to be recorded as a plat. It's less than the A1 zoning required, which is the required minimum area size is 43,560. That's 1 acre. However, the BZA did grant them a variance to have 14,000 square feet. No traffic or road access issues anticipated. The existing right-of-way for Loveless Park Road does not meet the current right-of-way requirement, so a additional right-of-way will be required to bring it to the current right-of-way requirements, which will be a minimum of 25 feet from the center line where adjacent to the property. No floodplain, no public sewer, so the Department of Health will have to approve the on-site sewage. Staff does recommend approval for this 1 lot subdivision.
Is the applicant here? Mr. Hinkle, would you like to add anything, sir? Is there any questions for the applicant from the commission? Is there any opposition to this case? Can I call for a motion, please?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve case S-23-0061 for approval.
I have a motion. I have a second.
Second.
I have a motion, a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Our next case is S-23-0062. The applicant is Wesley Bertoli. It's in the Sardis Road, community of Gardendale.
Sir, this is a resurvey to move a boundary line between an acreage tract and an existing lot of record. They're just adjusting the size of this lot 1 from the existing subdivision. It does comply with A1 zoning requirements. No traffic operation issues or road access issues anticipated. Right-of-way dedication will be required on Sardis Road, 25 feet from center line where adjacent to the property. No floodplain and there's no sewer, so the Department of Health will have to approve the on-site septic system. Staff does recommend approval for this 2-lot subdivision.
Is the applicant here? Sir, would you like to add anything? Any questions for the commissioner, for the applicant? Is there any opposition? Can I have a motion, please?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve case S-23-0063 062.
Have a second, please?
Second.
Have a motion, a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next case is S 23-0063. Your applicant is Rodney Dixon. This is in the Trafford community.
Sir, the purpose of the resurvey is to combine 7 lots of record into 2 lots for residential use. This is part of an old subdivision from 1914. These are small, kind of undersized lots. Homes on there are existing now, and this is simply to bring it into compliance. So it does comply with all our R6 zoning requirements. There's no anticipated road access or traffic operation issues. Right-of-way dedication will be required for Church Road to the south here, which is 30 feet on both sides there. 30 feet in totality there. Additionally, there is a platted road that runs more or less between these properties that will have to be vacated properly, as well as the alley on the eastern side will have to be vacated as well. There's no floodplain and no sewer. Jefferson Department of Health will have to approve the on-site septic system. Staff does recommend approval for this resurvey.
Is the applicant here? So would you like to add anything? Any questions for the applicant for the commission? Is there any opposition in this case? Can I have a motion, please?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve case S-23-0063 for approval.
I have a motion. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
I have a motion, a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Our next case is S 23-0064. Your applicant is Paul Russell. This is in the Alta Glen Drive area of Birmingham.
Yes, sir. The purpose of this subdivision is to split 2 acreage tracts into 3 lots of record for residential use. This is all E1 zoning there in the Altadena area there next to Vestavia. The existing acreage tract, just for reference here, it's a faint line. You can see it here on the tax map. So that we are dealing with 2 pieces of land, same owner. And this is the proposed plat. So essentially moving the boundary line to the south for the lot 3 and then splitting the area to the south, acreage tract, into 2 lots, 1 and 2 there. The 2 lots, 1 and 2, have substandard requirements for road frontage. However, they did receive a variance from BZA to have that, and that's essentially for utility purposes, having those smaller flag lot portions. A couple of notes on this one. There does need to be accommodation made. Alta Glen Drive is a undersized road, county road with no turnaround at the end. So accommodation to address the dead-end fire apparatus access road turnaround will be required prior to the final platting. Right-of-way dedication may be required as a result of that as well. Additionally, staff has spoken to the Rocky Ridge Fire Chief, which covers this area in this district. There was concerns about access on lots 1 and 2 with fire trucks and emergency vehicles because of the terrain. There's quite a amount of slope from Alta Glen Drive down to the east side of the property, which borders Interstate 459. Because of those road conditions now and the potential driveway that would come down, there's concerns. As such, staff has recommended approval with a stipulation that the final plat is approved and signed by the Rocky Ridge Fire Chief to ensure proper access for emergency vehicles. As another note, we did receive a couple letters, 2 letters of opposition on this subdivision.
Is the applicant here?
Yes.
Mr. Russell, would you like to add anything, please, sir?
Well,
I need you to come to the podium. Name and address, please. I'm sorry.
yes, thank you. I met with the fire chief, and my name is Paul Russell. My address is 2680 Alta Glen Drive. I live on this road, on this street. I met with the fire chief. He wanted me to put a hammerhead in where the fire truck could go down and back up and turn around and get out, and I've agreed to do that. So that's kind of where we are with it. Over in our area, the way this is broken down is to 3 lots, 1 10 and 2 5-acre lots. And that's what we're trying to do. I live on that street. People drive a little too fast coming up and down there anyway. I didn't want to increase traffic flow in front of my mailbox, and that's essentially why we just cut it to 3 lots, basically.
Any questions for Mr. Russell? Mr. Russell, you realize this is pending the fire chief's approval?
Sure,
we
yes.
need in writing.
Once we get, he's got the plans. I have a set of plans here. I think people on the committee should have the plans. If not, I can get you a set. But they were done by Joey Miller, an engineer that I've used a number of times. So we feel pretty good about getting that installed. It just takes some time. Takes time, costs money.
Okay. Any questions? Any questions, Mr. Russell? Any opposition? Come to the podium one at a time, please. State your name and address, please.
My name is Robert Carlson. I represent 2661 and 2657 Alta Glen Drive, which I am developing and building or designing homes on. My address is 115 Fairmont Drive. On the northernmost part of this plat is a access road that feeds this property. Since we've already established that the new access out there is not feasible, all the traffic is going to be forced to go through this one-lane driveway on the north end. This one-lane driveway will not sacrifice an inch for an access for fire trucks and et cetera going down into this subdivision.
Yes, sir. The stipulation is if this is approved, he'll have to improve that road for the fire department. The fire chief will have to sign off on it before anything is done.
Okay. Well, we don't have the space to allow movement of the road.
If I'm correct, you're talking about the access here.
That access right there.
What the discussed access for lots 1 and 2 is right here. This is the fire. What the fire chief has to approve.
Before the lot boundary adjustment, there was ways to get out of lot 3 without going up through the north end. So the readjustment has required everything to flow out the other side.
Yes, sir. Well, it has to be approved by the fire chief. That's a stipulation for everything. Any questions for Mr. Carlson? Somebody else opposition? Yes, sir. State your name and address, please.
Jamet Craig. I live on 2637 Alta Glen Drive. Of course, Alta Glen also, my statement also kind of reverberates where everyone else is coming from. But there's another road called Settlers Lane that's also perpendicular to that road, and that's only 12 feet wide. So that road also might need to be looked at because that's going to be highly used also. It's being used right now, but one car can only go in at one time. If 2 cars come at the same time in opposing directions, one car actually has to almost go into a gutter or hopefully find a driveway that they can pull into. So Settlers Lane also needs to be looked at as far as maybe we need to do something about that road for access and for the residents in the back community. Thank you.
Does that road attach to any of this property?
It does not attach to anywhere of the property, but it's right next. It's very much near it. A lot of people use it to go in and out of Alta Glen to attach to Altadena.
If it doesn't meet the fire department regulations or standards, it won't be approved. But we'll
Yes,
make sure that's first and foremost.
Thank you.
Anybody else in opposition? Any questions from the commission? Can I have a motion, please?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve case S-23-0064 with the stipulation that the final plat is approved and signed by the Rocky Ridge Fire Chief to ensure proper access for emergency vehicles.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. If your case has been heard, you're okay to leave. You won't hurt her feelings. Next, we will hear zoning cases. The staff will present the case to the board We will then call for opposition. The applicant and/or their representative may be asked to come forward to the podium and answer any questions. Each side will have a maximum of 15 minutes. The Planning Commission only makes recommendations on zoning cases. The Jefferson County Commission will make the final decision. Mr. Brown, first case is S23-0010 in the Z23-0010 on Cherry Avenue, Birmingham, Alabama.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, as you mentioned, this is a rezoning request from Institutional 1 and Institutional 2 for the purpose of allowing a 24-unit, age-restricted residential community. The property is located at 1520 Cherry Avenue in the Forestville area, I believe. Miss Lily Albright Rainey is the applicant. Miss Albright, okay, I thought that was you. All right, great. Glad you're here. This is the county's future land use map, which shows you the property is designated for single-family residential uses. And of course, the county zoning map shows you that the property is designated Institutional 1. This is an aerial view. It's an old aerial view that shows the former Hillview Elementary School that was previously there. All of those buildings have been demolished and razed. This is a street view that shows you those buildings are no longer there, except with the exception of a cement pad that's still located there. This is the applicant's site plan. She's proposing 3 5,000 square foot buildings with 8 units per building, or 4 units, or 4 tenants per floor, for a total of 24 residents or 24 units. There would be a building for common use at the entrance where management's office would be located. She's also proposing common areas, which would be walking trails, picnic areas, along with barbecue grills, And so staff is recommending approval of this rezoning request with one condition. We're recommending approval because an age-restricted community is permitted in the institutional zone district. The applicant's development proposal has a density of 4 dwelling units per acre, whereas the surrounding area, which is zone R2 single family, has a density of 3.8 dwelling units per acre, which makes this proposed use compatible or in character with the surrounding area. The one condition that we are proposing is to limit the uses to an age-restricted multifamily development. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. The applicant, Mr. Lily Rainey, is present. Do you have anything you'd like to add? Is there any opposition in this case? Okay. Hey, one at a time, come forward, please. And remind you, if y'all were, you have 15 minutes, please.
Yes, sir. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Yolanda Coleman. I live at 953 Eager Drive, which is adjacent right there in the curvy spot there. Let's see. Do you have a little pointy? Okay. Right there. And it's around this area. Here, what I'm pointing to is my property that is adjacent to the west side of the proposed area where this formerly school was be. At this area, what used to be the parking lot of the school. Now, my main concern is the 4 main topics, which is our property value of all of us here, of me and my neighbors, going down, the traffic situation here off of Cherry Avenue, which is the main fare to I-22, if you go toward the west direction. And as you can see, this is a Gret Drive. It's a very narrow road. And then in between our homes, that road is just between just 2 ditches. There's ditches between the homes and this roadway. So it's very narrow to have all that traffic I'm worrying about. As you see here, all this parking, which direction are they coming through? We just want them strictly to come through Cherry Avenue, because we don't need it here where all the school buses, and we do have children that takes the school buses through this area, and here on Cagle, which is just as narrow and curvy as well. So this is my worry spot, that we're going to be encroached on with all this extra traffic and all this extra coming and goings, and then the increase of crime, and our property value is going down. And also, on this plan, the sanitation is also my main concern, or where they're going to put dumpsters, where they're going to have sewers and so-called lines, because that dumpster was once there, and it has a lot of rodents that come through that area. And I do not want it here encroaching on my property of all that worry about. And if he wants to miss the comment area here, It's also an introduction as a way that we can help just hang out to other people that come too dear to my property. Again, where's all the trash is going to go down, sanitation, and again, we have to worry about traffic and property value. Mr.
Any questions for Ms. Coleman? Okay, somebody else want to speak, please? Okay, yes, sir.
Go ahead, sir. Right here, this little red thing here?
Yeah, okay. My name is Roy McDaniel. I live across the street at 967 Egret Drive, which is, well, forget to know how to work this. Anyway, it's, if you look where the Egret Drive is there, that's,
Well, closer vicinity.
oh, hold it down. Yes, sir. This area right here. My main concern, I understand that this property probably has to be used in some form or fashion. We were hoping it might be residential housing. We live in a community called Hillview that predates the Forestdale area, and I went to school at this school, and I'm 86 years old. So, and my dad, back in early 1950s, gave 25 feet to be able to cut that road through all the way through, because it ended right here where the old school was. It was a one room or two room school, and so Mr. Little lived across the street. I mean, up in this area. He donated 25. My dad donated 25 to Jefferson County to cut this road through. Okay, this road, it comes around, it's almost 120-degree turn there, but if you look down back down this road here is a 90-degree turn. So my case is, the address is 1520 Cherry Avenue. I ask the Planning Commission to please make sure that this is only entrance and exit off of Cherry Avenue to keep all of this traffic off of Egret Drive. Egret Drive has a 90-degree turn down approximately 300 or 400 feet from where the marker is, and then it goes back into the Cherry. So my point is, we need to keep the traffic for these proposed units in this area. I mean, off of Cherry. I understand you have to allocate the land for the best use, but bear with us to make sure that we get the traffic off of Cherry, like the other unit down on Cherry Avenue. There's another set of 55-plus residential that comes off of Cherry. Now, the other concern I have is the sewer. There's no sewer presently in this area. All of these homes in this area are on septic tanks. So the sewer would have to be run back down to Holiday Hills, where the closest sewer line to my knowledge. And the other thing is these units here, they said 55 and plus. How will we enforce that? How will we make sure that we don't get a high crime in this area? This area is really crime free and has been, and we do not need any people, you know, that would be transit. This is rental property. Rental property has no, they don't have a vested interest in their building, and it could be unless we have a restrict way of keeping the 55 plus as proposed. So my main concern, who will enforce this restriction on the 55 plus? The make sure the entrance comes off of Cherry Avenue in and out. And we understand that the commission has to approve on vacant land because they tore down the school. And I would just suggest that I hope, implore the commission to make sure that this stays crime-free and we have the enforcement on the 55 plus. Thank you for your
I'd like to ask Roads and Transportation about the ingress egress on Cherry Avenue.
So we haven't reviewed it to that extent yet. I think when we get the site plan, that's a review we'll do with the traffic study to see. And maybe a question we ask the applicant. I can't tell from their sketch where their entrance proposal is.
Ms. Rainey, could you come to the podium and clarify this? Where's your entrance and exit planned?
It was off of Cherry Avenue.
It was?
Yes,
It
that's
is?
what we were planning,
Okay.
to be Cherry Avenue in and out.
Okay. Ms. McDonald?
And,
Oh, no, just let her finish. Let her finish. Go ahead.
and also, if I can address, I checked, there is a sewer there. I checked with the,
Environmental Services.
Sewer Department.
I've done an environmental study on it, and you have that as well. But I actually called, I think it was the water board. I believe it was at the beginning when I was interested in checking out this property. And they actually told me there is a sewer and not septic tank for this school property.
Ms. Rainey, when you addressed the ingress egress,
Yes.
you said it was infers something in the past.
I'm sorry. I used the wrong term.
Yes, ma'am.
It's my desire that the entrance and exit is Cherry Avenue.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
Yes. Lily, Lilly, Albright, Rainey, 1201 Grand, Grand Boulevard. And that's Birmingham 35214.
All right. Any questions, Ms. Rainey?
Was roads and transportation done? Okay.
All right. We've got one more opposition. Yes, sir. You need to come to the podium, please, sir.
He's already spoken.
Yeah.
Just so you
Ms.
know
McDonald,
where the time
did
is.
she clarify your answers? Your
Yes,
questions?
I'm Roy McDaniel again. Thank you, Chairman, for listening to me. To my knowledge, if the sewer is there, there's no clean outs or anything, to my knowledge. But the main thing I'm saying right here with the old school, there was kind of a roundabout right here, not a roundabout, a kind of a pickup zone for the kids. And of course, this is paved right there. And my concern is this is going to be used for entrance and exit, unless there's a fence along there that they can't use it. So I implore the commission to make sure that we get a fence or something that they don't use Egret Drive as their main entrance and exit, because that would be because up here on this Cherry Avenue, there's a little hill. And when they go in and out, they have to be careful. But on Egret, when the Egret goes into Cherry, it's a kind of a flat area. So I'm concerned that they will be using this road right here. And if the commission grants this, please make sure that the owner puts a fence up or restricts that usage. And that, I understand you have to improve the land usage, okay? But help us out, because we're in a residential area, and already this 90-degree turn, this road is not, it's a old kind of a paved gravel road, and it's not very wide. It's not very accessible for two-lane traffic.
Ms. Rainey stated Cherry Avenue is going to be ingress egress, and that will be
Yeah,
coordinated
okay.
with the.
If
rules
the
of
commission
transportation.
would just please limit the entrance and exits off of Cherry Avenue. Thank you.
And, thank you.
Ms.
Yes,
Coleman?
Yolanda Coleman again. And as I mentioned before, this is right along my property line. And I'm concerned with crime, people thinking this is always open, and to push them to also to make this, if it's going to be secure for their residents, then they should make a secure gate for their entrance only. Because I like to control whoever's there and who's coming through that's supposed to be there. Because that's along my line right here. And that's why I'm right next to this. And for any family or anyone that visit these residents, not to just come in my property and encroach on me. And we also have a neighbor across the street here, which somehow, I don't know how this plan just disintegrated her house away. There's 2 houses here at the end of it. As you can see, my line as well. Let's see, does this, don't even come here. The vicinity map, I want to match in my property map. Because I have neighbors right here and here. Mm-hmm. And somewhere we got trees right there. All right, here, yeah.
Oh, those two right here.
Yeah, those 2 houses are there. And her little garage is there. That where the old trailers used to be. That's her property as well, all back there to that tree. And then mine, I have trees all on my property. Let me see. Yes, that's my property right there. And I am concerned here where there used to be the parking lot for the school teachers. That's where it is. This area here, I need this fenced. I need it secure. If this could be for your residents here. Because this, I don't want this to be this is already going to be a farewell. And this is where they used to keep the septic line, because I remember the Pickles used to come and pick up all the septic here every month. So if they did secure, I couldn't tell. So this is my area, and then my neighbor here, she's not available here, but also we are concerned in that area, and this is where Mr. McDaniels live in this area.
Any questions for Ms. Coleman? Ms. Rainey, would you like to address any of the concerns? Ms. Coleman, let her up there, please.
Oh, sure.
Thank you.
If the concern is whether somebody will use egret, again, we plan on letting it be the Cherry Avenue. Yes. I don't have a problem in looking at it and putting a gate up, but to commit to that right this minute without thinking about that, because I'm saying in and out Cherry Avenue. I would like an opportunity to look at it, but I really don't have a problem in putting a gate up to stop that. I've seen that egret, and it is kind of narrow because actually I didn't even know it was there. So I've always looked at Cherry Avenue in and out. And I do see their property there. So if that is a concern, I would be willing to address that.
Okay, thank you.
Mr.
Coleman's okay with you?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for zoning at this point. Is Eagle Drive, is that a public road that runs through there?
It is.
I don't believe we can gate up a public road.
It is. I don't believe they're saying a gate.
It's at
Egret.
14, just so you know.
Because Egret is a public road, yes.
Okay.
I think she was saying limit the, whether that's a landscape buffer between the property and Egret or a curb, something to not allow traffic to pull onto Egret from the parking. And then the other concern was access to that parcel that Egret separates.
So then the question I would have for you, Ms. Rainey, is do you plan to have any access from your facility onto Egret Drive? Or will it solely be from Cherry Avenue?
I was not planning on doing anything toward Egret Drive. It was strictly Cherry Avenue.
Thank you very much.
Any more questions?
He would like to, he's got one more minute.
What time?
That's what I've got.
Yes, sir, Mr. McDonald. Thank you, Ms. Rainey. We've got 1 minute.
This is Roy McDaniel again. She mentioned a gate. A gate means open and closing. And what we're, in this area was a pickup for the kids. And it's a natural, if there's apartments along here, that people will be using this unless we have a fence. Yes, sir. Not a gate, because gate implies it's opening and closing. So I would restrict this because right here in this area is a 90-degree turn. A 90-degree turn, and my neighbor Aretha lives right here. My entrance to my property is right there, and this is Yolanda's property, and my property is right below here. And if there's a gate there, it means it will be used. So I implore the commission to make sure that there's a fence there that can't be used.
Mr. Chairman, the time for opposition has expired.
So the time has expired.
Okay.
But we've heard your concerns.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Tell Mule I said hello. Ms. McDaniel. Okay. Any more questions from the commission?
Mr. Chairman, question on this. Could we would ask the applicant if they want, if they were to be okay with doing a landscape buffer in that area?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Maybe that solves the gate issue, drive issue.
And less
I need,
expensive.
Ms. Rainey, need you to come to the podium, please, Vance. I'm sorry.
Provided road and transportation doesn't use for our apartment purposes, I would say make that
A landscape buffer on Egret Drive. Yes, sir.
You could do that.
Yes, sir. We will do that.
Okay. This time I call for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I hereby motion to approve case number Z-23-0010 with the restrictions as recommended, those being an age-controlled community as well as a landscape buffer to Egret Drive.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Next case is Z-23-0026. Applicant Chad Underwood, Brunch Properties. It's a Mount Olive Road, Mount Olive area.
Mr. Chairman, excuse me. As I already mentioned, this is a rezoning request of the applicant to rezone the property from A1 to I1 to allow a mini warehouse and RV storage parking lot at the location 2815 Mount Olive Road, the Mount Olive area. So the county's future land use plan identifies this property for general transition or mixed use. And here's an aerial of the site which shows it's currently vacant and undeveloped with the exception of there being a stormwater detention pond on site. Existing land use map reflects the exact same thing, that it's vacant and undeveloped. Your county zoning map shows you that it's presently A1. And so here's an aerial view of the site. And you can see that stormwater detention pond to the north. And along Mount Olive Road on the property, there was a variance granted, variance A-2014-0051, which allowed truck parking for the business across the street, which is Gamble's Truck, Bat Line, and Trailers Accessory Store. So that's why you see those 18-wheelers parked there. The remainder of the site is vacant. Here's the applicant's proposed conceptual site development plan. And so the three boxes in purple are the proposed mini storage warehouses. And to the north of that is the proposed RV storage parking lot. And behind that RV storage parking lot is another RV storage parking lot. And I believe they're proposing somewhere in the vicinity of 62 parking spaces per lot. You see, again, the stormwater detention pond behind the mini storage facility warehouse buildings. I guess the only other thing to point out is that around this site, there are residential uses. I'll go to the next slide. Here's staff's recommendation. The mini storage warehouse and RV lots permitted within the I-1 industrial district. The proposed use is consistent with the county's future long-range land use plan. Mount Olive Road is a 2-lane major arterial with sufficient service capacity to support the development. That's for traffic engineering to state, actually. But it's a rural road. I don't know why this development would cause it to fail. The applicant's development proposal is compatible with development patterns in the surrounding area. Staff recommends approval with one contingency or condition, that being that a 35-foot buffer shall be maintained adjacent to low-density residential single-family dwellings in the A1 and R1 districts. That would be along the eastern boundary and north and west boundary. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Is the applicant here? Sir, would you like to add anything?
No, sir.
Okay. Any opposition to this case? Any questions from the commission? Can I have a motion, please?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve case number Z-23-0026 with condition as recommended.
Can I have a second, please?
Second.
I have a motion, a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Our next case is Z23-0027, applicant Rick Nail. This is in the Irondale community.
Yes, sir. The applicant is proposing to rezone this property from I-3, R7, and R1 to A1 for residential use. The applicant actually has 3 adjacent parcels located at 3980 Michael Place, 99 Bushwood Road, and 4525 Brook Forest Lane. This is an area view of the property showing us a total of 98.5 acres that he's requesting to have rezoned. The current zoning of the parcels, the property parcel 1 has split zoning of R7, which is planned unit development, in A1. Parcel number 2 is zone R1 single family, and parcel number 3 is zone I3 industrial. To the south of the property is A1 zoning within the unincorporated Jefferson County. The A1 to the southwest belongs to the same owner, Josh and Catherine Boyd. The city of Irondale abuts property in the city of Irondale on 3 sides, and this is the zoning that I received from the city of Irondale. The property is on A1 zoning adjacent to everywhere except to the north. The existing land use is vacant, undeveloped. The future land use is blank. There is floodplain and floodway on the property. The staff summary and recommendation. The owner has a total of 4 parcels totaling 120 acres. He's requesting to rezone 3. The property is vacant, undeveloped. There should be no development built within the floodway, and any development within the FEMA designated floodplain will require approval and issuance of a floodplain development permit. In the future, right now the applicant is proposing to build a house and a barn. In the future, he's requesting possibly a second residence for his mother. The applicant's current proposal of a house and a barn is compatible with the development patterns in the area, and staff recommends approval. That's all I have for you.
Thank you. Is the applicant here? Would you like to add anything, sir? Okay. Is there any opposition to this case? Yes, ma'am. You come forward, please. Your name and address, please.
Hi, I'm Diane Jones. My deed reads Diane Jones Gray, and I'm now Williams, and I reside in Panama City, Florida. My brother Donald Jones lives in Coleman, and he was to be our spokesman. There are 3 of us who own property on Overton Road. We've been to court here before. And as you see, I'm a little bit old to be traveling from Florida here, but My brother Don had an emergency and was called to Washington
Ma'am,
this morning.
can we get your street address, please?
I need your name and address, your street address.
It's 6209 Tammy Lane, Panama City, Florida, 32404. Nora Diane Gray. No, it was Nora Diane Jones is the way the deed reads, because my brothers are Joneses, my family's Jones. And then I married Gray, and he passed away, and I'm now Williams.
Okay. We're following you.
You got me?
Yes, ma'am.
Want my thumbprints? Anyway, my brother had a medical emergency and had to fly to Washington, and I fell to be the spokesperson this morning. We do not want this property rezoned. This property has been in my family since before there were roads in that area. My family owned that whole valley. They were Glasses, many generations, and now it's dwindled down to where me and my two brothers have our piece remaining, and we don't want to be bullied and pushed aside, and our commercial.
Ma'am, I'm very confused. Are you saying that you own the property that's being rezoned?
Well, we got the notice.
The notice goes to adjacent landowners. It does not go to the owners of the property.
But it would affect my property, the value of my property,
Potentially, yes, ma'am.
because we're zone commercial.
Okay.
And we've been contemplating storage units and possibly a Dollar General store or something like that. We own that much acreage yet. We don't want to have it changed to residential. And certainly not to apartments
Well, this is not for apartments, it's for
or
agriculture.
cabins.
So residents, one
Well,
house.
The thing she just
Or two.
read said something about a place with cabins. I had not heard cabins before.
It's not a part of this application.
Is what?
It's not a part of this application. He was saying long-term, he might want to do that, but it's not a part of the existing regulation.
Yeah,
Can you show my property up there?
I'd love to.
It's 5369 Overton Road.
Okay, here's Overton Road here.
Okay, can you blow it up better?
I can't blow it up,
Oh.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
So are you on the north side of?
Okay. My aunts and uncles, my grandparents, my great-grandparents owned all of that before Overton Road was even put through. But,
Are you in Irondale?
yeah.
Okay, you're not in unincorporated county, you're in Irondale, just to point that out.
My brother Donald owns two different properties, I believe, and his actually opens onto Overton. Me and my brother Paul Jones own a property that you would have to access going across his access on Overton Road. Ours is up on the side of the mountain. But that land has been perked. My husband that retired from the Air Force we were going to build up there. We've had it perked. It was buildable. We had some land cleared, and we're going to put a mobile home there while we built a chalet off the side of the mountain. So it's good land. It has potential. And we don't want our property status changed.
We're not changing your property status. We're only asking to do it for the part.
Why do
somebody
y'all
else's
send
property.
these?
Someone else's property is being changed. Your property is in a proximity to that property, so you have the right to object to their property being changed. You
Okay, I
to their.
object.
Okay. Why do you object to their property being changed?
Because it affects my property, the
Okay.
value of my property, and my two brothers' properties.
Okay.
We were there first.
Understandable.
No, that's why my brothers wanted me to come. They couldn't come, so I'm here, and we do not want the property values changed.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any questions, Ms. Jones? Okay. Has applicant got anything to add? Is there any other opposition to this case? Can I have a motion that Z23-0027, please?
Mr. Chairman, I recommend approval of case number Z-23-0027.
Can I get a second, please?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? The motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Jones. Ms. Jones-Gray-Williams, I'm sorry. Our next case is Z23-0028. The applicant is John Kane. This is in the Dry Bone Road area of Warrior, Kimberly, Morris area.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is, as you pointed out, rezoning from A1 to RG, which is single family with a lower footprint. The applicant's proposing to develop the site as a 99-unit residential subdivision along Bone Dry Road, specifically 2131 Bone Dry Road. This is the county's future land use plan, which designates this property as rural. It's in a rural area. And the aerial shows you that there's a creek, Self Creek, which runs through the heart of the subject property. It's called Self Creek. It's both floodway and floodplain. So the development is not being proposed on the east side, only on the west side. Those 99 residential units are proposed on the west side of the floodplain of Self Creek. And to the north is Franklin Park subdivision, which is in the city of Kimberly, which I'm just guessing that most of our guests here today are probably from this subdivision. Existing land use plan that shows you that this property is presently vacant and undeveloped, and the zoning map shows you that it is presently A1 agricultural. So this is an aerial view. You get a clearer depiction of that Franklin Park subdivision, which, by the way, was developed in the unincorporated county. Then it was previously annexed into the city of Kimberly. And again, the subject site or subject property is to the south of that existing residential subdivision that's in Kimberly. Here's the applicant's proposed site development plan. And so, excuse me, the subdivision in Kimberly is zone R1, and it would have a density of 2.58 dwelling units per acre. And the applicant's proposed density for the zoning request today is 1.4 dwelling units per acre. And the RG, or single family zone district, actually allows up to 8.6 dwelling units per acre. So what he's proposing is far below the maximum required for the RG single family district. It's also less than what the development that's in the city of Kimberly, that existing single family residential development that's in Kimberly. So you see Self Creek here along the east, and I believe there's a transmission line to the south of this proposal. Staff is recommending, Mr. Chairman, my throat is dry, I'm sorry. Staff is recommending approval of this rezoning request for the following reasons. A single-family residential subdivision uses is consistent with the permitted uses of the RG zone district in the county. The development proposal is also consistent with the rural designation of the county's long-range future land use plan. The A1 zone has a density of 1 dwelling unit per acre. The RR residential rural zone district has a density of 1.34 dwelling units per acre, and the applicant's proposal is 1.4 dwelling units per acre. So again, that density, that's the density that is being proposed is consistent or compatible with the surrounding area, because surrounding is A1 and R1. Again, 1.4 is less than the R1 in the city of Kimberly. Most of the surrounding area is vacant and undeveloped, although it's A1. There's nothing within those A1 zones. And for these reasons, Mr. Chairman, staff is recommending approval. I don't have anything else for you.
Thank you, sir. Is the applicant here?
Yes, sir.
Would you like to add anything, please, sir?
I'll reserve my time for answer questions.
Thank you, sir. Is there any opposition? Okay. Again, let me remind you, we have a 15-minute time limit. If you would, maybe get one or two people to express your concerns. We don't want to cut anybody off, but if somebody's saying something you're going to say, just let them speak. Yes, ma'am. Need to your name and address, please.
Tanya Cowart, 9483 Ambrose Lane, Kimberly, Alabama.
I'm sorry, what's your last name? I'm sorry.
Cowart, Cowart. I am here for the City of Kimberly. I'm the Mayor Pro Tem as well as the Zoning Chair for the City of Kimberly. And the city of Kimberly is drastically concerned that this developer is trying to skirt the city of Kimberly's city and zoning regulations. The city of Kimberly requested the county deny their application and asked that the developer be asked to request to annex into the city of Kimberly. I was the one that personally worked with State Representative Alan Treadway to annex in that current development, Franklin Park, and Kay Ivey signed off on that in 2021. I also worked with the roads department because there was some confusion. The bond had been called up on those roads. The only access into this neighborhood is on a Kimberly road. That's the only access in, and so that falls under Kimberly. So that's why we want them to come through our process. To annex into Kimberly, right now Franklin Park is considered a satellite area, but I have talked to the neighboring owners of the land, and which is Mr. Drummond, and I've been talking to his team, and they are in. They would be willing to propose annexing in 10 feet. That would give them the ability to annex in this property into Kimberly if it was approved by Kimberly. The problem what we've had is when Franklin Park was originally developed, they were told they were going to be annexed into Kimberly, which was not the case. And so it ended up being a long process of getting it through, which having to work with State Representative Treadway to make this possible. I've also spoke with Mayor Ellerbrock of Kimberly as well as Mayor Ragland of Warrior. Kimberly and Warrior will not provide fire coverage and or police coverage to this undeveloped area if it is approved through the county. Also, the city of Kimberly is looking at every legal right since it is a Kimberly road, and there was some difficulties with the seal code and things like that, and that just got done in actually 2021 for this development. What our legal rights are on restricting any kind of construction vehicles on that road or barricading that access to that road into that development, and or we will do what we are legally allowed, the highest percentage of amount of a bond to the developer if they want access to this road. So we ask that this is denied and sent back to Kimberly to possibly follow our rules and regulations. And which those rules and regulations, because I was at your meeting the other day, have been updated, and we have gone in line a lot with the county's rules and regulations. I was the one that personally worked on that, and it was a 1.5-year process to update our zoning as well as our subdivision regulations. That's all.
Ms. Cowart, to clarify your objection, is your objection to the rezoning, is your objection to the fact that it's not occurring within the city of Kimberly?
We're objecting for it to be rezoning to an A1 and have it come to Kimberly to go through the rezoning process there.
So your objective would be for us to reject it, for the city of Kimberly to annex the land and then go through your zoning process?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else opposition?
Opposition.
Please state your name and address, please, sir.
My name is Mark Puccio, 1828 Park Ridge Circle. I live on the front street of the neighborhood. And I am a resident, and I'm speaking on behalf of Franklin Park Subdivision. We want to start by saying that our neighborhood of 58 homes is one that is fewest left in our area in Jefferson County, which is quiet, safe, neighborly, kid-friendly, and kid-safe area. When you walk outside of our neighborhood, we hear nothing but our neighbors. We don't hear constant cars, constant traffic, and when you're out of town, we can rely on our neighbors to take care and to watch over our stuff. Our kids are playing outside, and our pets as well, and we don't have to worry about the constant traffic and strangers riding through our area. We as Franklin Park would like to bring concerns to you, evident being these: the effects of the large numbers of construction vehicles on the one road that they will be entering in and out of. There's only one way in and one way out, and it's a 2-lane road that is almost just, a fire truck can't pull down it if there's a car parked on the side of it. The increased traffic in our neighborhood and surrounding area, home values, Franklin Park's HOA, new developments and the new development sewage plans, and the impact on our fire and police, which she just touched on, which it won't affect it. Because there won't be none. The effects of their large construction on our roads in the past year or so, which she stated, they've completed the asphalt and the capping of it, which was a huge win in our neighborhood, considering there was multiple years where long-term residents didn't have that. It was rough roads with holes in it. It took years for us to have these roads completed. When we asked the developers the other night about who would be responsible for fixing the wear and tear of all of this construction equipment that we were having, they pointed to y'all, the Jefferson County. They said that y'all were the ones that were doing, not them. The increased traffic in our neighborhood and surrounding areas. We don't have any of the outside area that is that is here today, but they asked me to speak on this as well. We have a couple neighbors that live just off of Bone Dry Road, where the high school sits, that people fly down and litter constantly on it. With an additional 100 homes in the area, it's going to do nothing but get worse. With the numbers, an additional 99 homes. That's a minimum of 99 cars. Most households have 2 cars. That's about 198 extra vehicles driving down that small 2-lane road. Franklin Park we will no longer be able to let our kids ride our bikes in our front yards in the streets because we don't have sidewalks due to the danger of the large flow of vehicles in and out of the neighborhood. Walking our pets and exercise also increases our risk of incident. With the increased traffic, you will also have the increased possibility of the percentage of accidents in the area. In our area alone, as I said, 58, our president is here, 58 homes. We still have to deal with people speeding down our roads. With an extra 198 cars, it's going to get even worse. Our home values, we were told by the developers, the homes that they were planning to build, small garden style homes, are going to sell for $300,000+. Homes like ours in our neighborhood are $700,000+. We were also told by them that homes like ours are not built anymore, which are mostly split foyer homes averaging about 2,200 square feet. Just note, the home in our neighborhoods that aren't built anymore average $350,000, about the same thing that they're saying they're going to be selling these small garden homes for. And also, they're being built as we speak. These we've got 2 that are under construction and for sale, and 3 to 4 have just been completed in the last year. There is no comparison to our homes in our neighborhood right here than what they are planning on building. Our HOA is an active with leadership and covenants. The covenants include minimum square footage, lot size, material requirements for the facade of our homes, etc. The proposed homes do not fit any of these categories. The developers stated that they have no interest in building homes like ours and that homes like ours in Franklin Park are a thing of the past. The developers kept referring to this as Phase 2 of Franklin Park, but have no plans or consideration to paying dues or abiding by any of our covenants. The new development sewage plans. We were told that it was a sewage septic pump and disposal system. These systems usually have large costs in maintenance and upkeep, and they stink awfully. They are safety hazards. Where they have planned to build the system at is at the end of the road, right off of this. Hold on, can you pull that map back up? I want to show them something. Go back, right here. Okay, so they told us, that's fine, that's all I need. They told us that right here off of this road that does not have a cul-de-sac is where they were going to put the sewage plant at, which is right here beside a main creek. And Self Creek is a pretty large creek. Any kind of breach, any kind of spill, pollution or anything hits that main body of water. And that water runs for miles and miles and miles. Due to the cost, these areas are normally not very well maintained. They stink more than usual, and there's no true assurance that they will be operated appropriately. In the future, a loss of money or even bankruptcy was to occur. It would be up to the unskilled, untrained homeowners to operate and maintain these. And finally, if they are maintained during times of cleanup and cleanout, you run into another pollution risk of a breach while connecting and running all equipment, as well as an increased stench that would come from this operation. Most of the residents in Franklin Park that bought out here is because it was a quaint, quiet, family-oriented, and out-of-the-way neighborhood. By bringing 99 new homes, they are destroying the exact reason why our people came to Franklin Park. And in closing, while listening to the developer's pitch the other night, one thing came very apparent. It's big I, little you. And nothing in their pitch benefited the city of Kimberly and definitely did not benefit the Franklin Park community. And lastly, I want to leave you with a quote from the developers themselves when they were asked, why do you want to build these style homes in 99 in our Franklin Park? And their answer was one thing. Money. Thank y'all.
Hold on. Does anybody got any questions?
Actually, I do. Just a quick question. I want to clarify. I got a little confused when you were going through the math on the housing.
Yes, sir.
You said the average cost of a house in your neighborhood at one point was $700,000.
That's what they told us.
Okay.
They told us that homes like ours sell for $700,000, and that houses like theirs were going to sell for $300,000.
But the actual cost of the actual average sale price in your neighborhood currently
is around $350,000.
Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, I have a question. Did you say that they're already building on the property?
No, ma'am. We're trying to stop the houses that they say that are no longer being built are still being built on our property. Split foyers, 2,200 average square foot homes. You know, they tried to tell us that the other night, that these are homes of the past, that this don't happen anymore. Okay, and we are trying to completely stop this. We do not want this in our subdivision at all.
I think we all got confused the way you said it.
Yeah. Just a point of clarification.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We got it.
I got
You're
it.
good.
Point of
I
clarity.
think you covered everything.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is anybody else? I think you covered most everything. Does anybody else want to speak? You still have about 5 minutes. Okay. All right. Mr. Kane, would you come to the podium, please, state your name and address, and see if you can address some of these concerns.
I'll try. I'm John Kane. I live at 848 Mountain View Drive in Gardendale. It's a funny thing that the pro tem mayor would come to this meeting when annexation was done by legislative action, meaning that they had to go through the legislation in order to be able to annex this property based on that they didn't have the ability to get to it in normal terms. It's also funny that the mayor pro tem is here when they just recently, a similar development has been off of across from Saddlebrook and Hitch development has just been approved in the city limits of Kimberly with a direct discharge system. So it's funny that they would bring that up. Let me say that we've owned the property since '07. That's a long period of time. We've already presently been before the board and got what I call a PUD zoning, and from a financial standpoint, it would not work. So we've sat on this property for quite some number of years. Yes, the access point, which is a stub street, which the original developer, which we're not, the original developer actually, when it came off of Bob Jones Road, comes in and Stub Street. That's where the utilities are. That's the only access to this 70 acres. There's no other access there. The proposal, in my opinion, on 70 acres at 99 lots is what you've been previously told is a lower density than what could actually be done. You know, we feel like that we're in compliant with the county regulations. Yes, we do have the option to either, because you can notice that there is a tremendous amount of open and common area, we do have the ability to have what I call an on-site drip system, which is determined by Jefferson County Health Department, or we have access to Self Creek, which allows us to be able to go with a direct discharge that y'all know that are being used quite frequently. Those are actually manned, and the HOAs and everything take care of the fees involved in a monthly fee and an update. So we feel like that the houses that would be built on this subdivision meet in, maybe not in specs because they would not be basement homes. Most of those homes out there are split foyers, but they would be on slab contained lots. And so we feel like that from a price range, we're right in line. I did tell them that their subdivision type is a thing of the past, and it is. Jefferson County right now today we're probably 7, 8, maybe 10 to 1 this type of development versus what I call standardized subdivisions that we used to develop all the time. We probably developed 15 over the years in the standard traditional way. that's no longer financially feasible. I'll be more than happy to answer any kind of questions that y'all have.
What square
Or
footage
address
home
it.
are planning on building?
Sir?
What square footage home are you planning on building?
Between 1650 and 2250. I did bring a copy of what they're saying is Franklin Parks. This is Franklin Parks, a copy of their covenants is, and this is what we're using. So our restrictive covenants are far greater than what they proposing that they actually are going by now. I would also point out that the average square footage on this covenant, which is in place for Franklin Park, is 1,300 square feet, with a story and a half being 900. I brought a copy here if y'all'd like to look at it. So what we're proposing is far greater than their minimum. I would like to also point out that they're continuing. There is probably about maybe less than probably 4 or 5 vacant lots that are still left in the current subdivision there. It also breaks one of their covenants. Their covenants say that within the time frame of only 18 months, and that's since 2007, only 18 months that they have to complete that, or those properties would go back to the original developer, which went defunct. So I'm saying that I hate to say this, but their covenant says there's probably 4 or 5 things in here that have already been broken, and they're not enforceable. But I'll be more than happy to answer any kind of question.
Anybody any questions, Mr. Kane?
I have a few, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind. And some of these, Mr. Kane, you've done
Yes,
you've actually answered them, but I want to reestablish them just so I can make sure that I'm fully understanding. So first of all, this property, you are not the original developer of the other subdivision. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
Okay. And you've owned this property. Did you buy it prior to or after the prior subdivision was built?
We bought the property in October of '07, so it was during when they were finishing up the second phase.
Second phase of that subdivision.
That is correct.
And did you buy it from that developer, or did you buy it from an independent person?
No, sir. Townsend Woods, Robert Townsend, Larry Woods, which is a law office out there, they actually own the property.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Familiar with them.
Yes, sir.
So my next question is, you said that and I think that one of the key things that's being discussed here is access to your land. You said that there's no other access to that land.
That is correct, sir.
Is your access through, and this is more of a legal question probably, if you're not comfortable answering, I understand. Do you have an easement through this other subdivision to your land, or how otherwise would you have access to your land?
If I can use the pointer,
Sure.
I'll point it out to you.
Love to.
This road here, this is a stub street that when the subdivision was originally developed in the county, they left this stub street to access this remainder of the 70 acres.
Okay.
This is the only ingress egress for this property. And the utilities sit here, the water, the underground utilities all sit at this point here for access to this other 70 acres. That's it. They did do a good job in designing, because on Franklin Parr Drive, it doesn't go through the main body of the subdivision. It actually goes to the right of it to come in and dead end this. So the traffic flow is not through the main body of the subdivision.
And I feel like I'm about to get really into legal cases, which I probably shouldn't here, so I'll stay with this. You are placing restrictive covenants on these properties?
Yes, sir. I'll be more than happy to provide.
That's fine. And you will have a traffic impact study done on this at some point?
That is correct.
One final question, just because it was raised and now I'm curious. At any point, are you intending to promise anyone that this property will be annexed into the city of Kimberly? I'm just curious, since that's the big point of debate here.
Let me just say this in there, and I didn't realize that the mayor pro tem was at our, what I call gathering other, but let me say this. I do not, and I have developed a subdivision in the city limits of Kimberly. and I've also built houses myself personally. I don't like the politics. I would prefer to develop in the county to where it's a business-minded versus the politics.
Okay. It's an honest answer, and I appreciate that, Mr. Kane.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody else got any questions for Mr. Kane? I saw a hand go at the back. Y'all got about 3 minutes.
Tanya Coward again. We're not saying no to this subdivision, but the road that he's talking about, saying it's not the main road, it is the only road into Franklin Park that they would be utilizing. I just wanted to point that out. And yes, we did approve Jersey Park, which is off of Saddlebrook. It does not access in or out of Saddlebrook. It has its own entrance point in and out. We're just asking that this comes to Kimberly.
If I could address just one thing. I think it's illegal to deny access in any way, shape, form, or fashion to our property.
We're not here to do the
I
legal
know, I'm
arguments.
not saying you are, I'm saying.
Yes, sir. We're not addressing that.
We're not going to address the legal arguments.
Thank
I
you.
stopped
Thank you.
myself before I got into
Thank
it.
you
Trust
so
me.
much.
We're not going to do that.
Thank you.
I wanted y'all to be aware too that this property, even though it's got a Bone Dry Road address, that this road is not off of Bone Dry Road. It is off of Franklin Park Drive at the intersection of Franklin Park Lane. Once again, it is a very small 2-lane road that is inside of our subdivision right here that will not, there is no other access to that at all whatsoever. And I just wanted to verify that by y'all, that y'all know that, and it's not off of the main Bone Dry, because there's no other way. This is the only access that they can have to that property, not off the backside of this property, not off of any other piece of property adjacent to it at all.
Thanks, sir. At this time, I'll close the public hearing. Time has expired for both sides. I call for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I hereby move approval of case number Z-23-0028.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
Sir.
Our next case is Z23-0029, applicant Joe Schifano in the George Loop area of Bessemer.
I should have abstained.
All right, Mr. Chairman, this is case Z23-0029. The applicant is Joe Schifano, the engineer for the project. As you mentioned, he's requesting rezoning from A1 to RG, similar to the past case. Except with this rezoning request, they're proposing a 112-unit residential subdivision. The other one was 99 units. This property is located at 7501 to 7541 Lou George Loop Road in the Bessemer area. So this property, which I think I failed to mention in the Planning and Zoning Committee meeting, it's in the Shades Creek watershed area. And it is identified as G2 and P3. G2 represents controlled growth traditional neighborhood development, which is permitted within the G2 sector. And P3 represents sub-area zone, which, just to read the first bullet point, the most natural, least dense, most residential of the urbanized area for the suburbs, is what that means. This development is not permitted outright, is permitted as warranted, meaning you have to justify the development for this area based on the fact finding. So here's an aerial view of the site, which is vacant and undeveloped. There's an Alabama Power transmission line along the south border of this site, and then there's a creek or floodplain along the eastern boundary. This is the county's existing land use map, which shows you again that the property is vacant and undeveloped. And here's the county's zoning map, which shows you the property's zone A1 agricultural. And this is an aerial view. You can see that Alabama Power transmission line easement to the south, and then the floodplain, which is not as clear, along the eastern border. Here's the applicant's site development plan. It shows you the arrangement of the proposed 119 units. He is proposing common areas along the outskirts of the subdivision. Staff, Mr. Chairman, for this proposal is recommending approval with conditions. Condition number 1, limit the development to a density of 2.4 dwelling units per acre, which would make it consistent and compatible with the surrounding character of the area. You have letters of opposition in the side pocket of your folder. And so there, what I recall reading in one of the letters of opposition, they would recommend creating a woodland buffer between the development and the adjacent existing residences. And also, number 3, install a privacy fence to protect the privacy, safety, sanctity of adjacent existing homes and families. I'll only mention that this is in a rural area, and the adjacent residences are zone A1 agricultural with a density of 1 dwelling unit per acre. And I'll let you draw your own conclusions about that. Anyway, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Staff's recommending approval.
Thank you, sir. This applicant here. Paulo, you have anything to add? You have anything to add?
I do not, other than one clarification.
Okay, need you come on the podium then. Name and address, please, sir.
I'm Joe Schifano with Engineering Design Group. Point of clarification I wanted to add is that there are a couple of numbers thrown out for the density of our request. We are requesting 122 lots with this request. I think I heard a 117 and a 112, but this layout plan does represent 122. So I did want to clarify that on the request. And we have representatives here from the developer to answer any questions that may come up.
Okay, thanks, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry, 120 Bishop Circle is my address.
Is any opposition to this, please? Okay, again, we have 15-minute time limit. If y'all could get 1 or 2 people speak on your behalf for everything. Please state your name and address, please, ma'am.
My name is Beverly McMurray. I live at 7563 Lou George Loop, Bessemer. I'm a property owner at 7563 and 7583 Lou George Loop. We have 2 houses on almost 20 acres. You do that. Okay, the property was purchased by my grandfather over 100 years ago. I've lived on this land all my life. Besides my husband and myself, my daughter, my son-in-law, and my grandson live here. We are obviously not happy about this, adding 122 garden homes that are literally going to be in our back door. We're also unhappy for our neighbors. This subdivision would really affect my family because we have more square footage joining this property than anybody else does. Our homes were built on the high side of our property because the field in front is prone to flooding. And so it would be really close. We feel this would take away our privacy, which is very valuable to us. We don't want these homes built. However, if it is allowed, we would like to request a natural buffer of 50 feet between the length of our properties, in which there's 2 of them. It goes a long way, with a privacy fence behind this barrier. We don't feel like this would be asking too much if we have to have this happen.
I'm Kenny McMurray, 7563 Lou George Loop, Bessemer, Alabama. Entirely too many houses for this much land. We've seen it time and time again. You cram this many houses on top of an acre, and they're looking at 4 houses per acre, basically. It's going to bring property values down around our area. The infrastructure around our area will not handle it. We have not seen no road studies, transportation studies of the place. We have not seen water studies of the place. This is going to dump water on our property and our neighbor's property. It's going to contaminate the creeks. It runs into Shades Creek. It runs into the Cahaba River. There's several other more people that want to speak. I know that oppose this, but we're strictly against it. I think we would entertain 40 to 60 residences on 40 acres. This is county. This is a rural area, and we would like to keep it that way. There's not a lot left of it. That's all I've got now.
Thanks, sir. Yes, sir.
My name is Michael Morris. I live at 7343 Bishop Road in McCalla. My land joins this 40 acres. I can't tell you how many feet because I didn't look it up, and about 200 feet from this land is Bob George Branch, which is a creek runs through my property and several of my neighbors' property. I know we've talked about densities, but this general area is not one house per acre. I would say probably closer to one house per 5 acres on average. There's no way that these homes fit form, function, style, anything in our area. There is one house on my street that is owned less than 3 acres. We were contacted several months ago about buying access to Bob George Branch for a sewage system. No one chose, to my knowledge, no one chose to sell access. My grandchildren play in this creek. It's clear running, it's flat bottom rock. I've sent water samples off to get tested. You can drink it out of the creek. My concern is of noise pollution, light pollution, water pollution, and all the other various things. Now, I'm not against development of this land, but what is more meshes with what's already there is estate-sized lots. Homes on my street range from the low end, 200,000, the high end, 900,000. I've already been offered 400,000 for my place that's not worth that because of this development. I'm not selling it. I'm just against the way. I'm not against developing this land. But these houses up on this hill, they need to fit what's already in the community, and they need to fit with the environment around it. That's people, animals, everything. And at the current proposal, I don't agree with it. And I would ask that you seriously consider restricting or denying this proposal now. That's really all I have to say, unless there's questions.
Anybody questions? Mr. Morris? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Ms. Brown?
My name is Melinda Everett. I live at 7494 Lou George Loop, which is right in front of where the entrance would be to the subdivision. With everyone else, I don't disapprove development in our area. I know it has to happen. The only problem that we are having in our area is that it's happening everywhere. I've been doing some deep diving into schools in our area, and about 3 years ago we had McCalla Elementary, because McAdory Elementary was over 700 students, and we needed Greenwood closed, so we needed somewhere for all of the other kids to go, which would be on our side of the loop. Right now, it holds about 692 students, and the capacity is only for 720. The report shows that in 2021, there was only 248 students, but in 2022, it went to 692. Teacher ratio is 20 to 3. Our ranks in our schools is 470 to 6 compared to 680. So right now you see we're not doing a very good job in our schools because we don't have enough teachers, we have too many children, we have too many residents for our area that we're not ready for. McAdory School has 630 students right now, and they're ranked 404 out of 680. So we're in the 400 rank out of 680, which is, as you see, is not very good. We have one middle school. Those students was 929, and we're 333 out of 439, which gives a teacher to student ratio of 24 to 8. We only have one high school. We have 1,142 students enrolled in that high school, and we're ranked 284 out of 371, which gives us a 21.3 teacher ratio. These rankings are not going to get better. They're only going to get worse. The more children and families we bring in at this speed, I don't see how it can get any better. Along with that, our infrastructure is just not ready. As you know, we're getting a hospital that will be opening next year, which also brings in a lot of commercial business, which also brings in a lot of traffic. We haven't been told that we're going to get another exit we have one exit off 459. We have not been told that there's any plan started to get off an exit off Pocahontas Road, which makes all the residents in this area, not just ours, but everybody around this side and everybody on the other side of 459, to all be forced, along with the hospitals, the ambulances, the emergency services, to one exit. And I propose, yes, we do need some kind of traffic survey done. I know our accidents have increased. It seems like it's almost twice a week that we have somebody being rear-ended, somebody being hit, because we have all these people trying to get off on this one exit. So also, I haven't heard anything about sewage. We all have septic tanks in our area because we are on 2 to 3 to 5 to 10 acres. I just don't see a 2-lane road being able to handle 122 homes, which you know, if I'm sure all of you have more than one car at your home. Everybody usually has one or two, which means we're going to have about 244 cars if they're just a husband and wife, not saying if they have children that will have cars. So it's a 2-lane road, rural road that was made a long, long time ago that was not built for this kind of growth. Thank you.
Wait a minute. Is there any questions?
Okay. Oh, sorry.
Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Anybody else in opposition want to speak?
My name is John Eccles. I live at 5506 Timberleaf Way, one of the only existing subdivisions on the George Loop, one of the original ones. I actually sat in this room just a few years ago when they were proposing an addition to our subdivision that was not even officially a part of our subdivision. It was approved, it was built. Then after the fact, they came in, they changed the game plan on us. They increased the amount of houses, density got worse. And then once they started getting ready to build, they swapped it from homes for sale to all these properties. So we have a rental community behind us now. You want to talk about hurting your property values. I have no evidence that's what they're going to do with this place, but I know it's becoming more and more common nowadays. Now, the people that were up before us, that density of construction was far less than this one. Looking at what they were proposing up there is ludicrous. There's no Greenland left. Now, I've lived in this area. I'm 41 years old. I've lived in this area for about 35 years of my life, either on the other side of Coleman Lakes or where my wife and I live now. I am a maintenance manager at the Amazon facility in Bessemer. When I first started there in 2020, I could make it to work in 12 minutes. 3 days ago, it took me 45 minutes to get there. It's less than 10 miles. You want to talk about traffic problems. Now you're going to put this many more people out there on top of us. Keep in mind, McCullough Trace subdivision just right down the street from us, they're expanding that one too. There's proposals for other subdivisions up around Camp Fletcher that's going to interfere with it. Camp Fletcher is a historical camp. Still active and holds a lot of significance. There's a lot of children playing. There's no room. I know everybody else has said that they don't oppose the development of this land. I 100% oppose the development of this land. There's only so much room that we can handle right now, and until the roads are increased, until our one lone fire department that we have with their one fire truck and their one ambulance covering this many people, the fact that we're served by the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department and the average response times to a call might be 10 to 15 minutes if they just so don't happen to have anybody in the area. And you want to put this many more people out there? 122 houses, 244 more people, just assuming two people per house. Yeah, I mean, growth is great. I'm all for it in areas where it can handle it. But we're shoehorning people in every which way we can out there right now. And it's getting to the point where it's really ridiculous. Thank y'all.
1 minute.
Okay, there's 1 minute left for opposition, and we have to hold your feet to the fire on this. If you want to speak, ma'am, I may have to stop you. Go, come on. Please state your name and address, please.
My name is Ronnie Tillman. I live at 5062 Fletcher Road. Okay. As been told that there's a lot of traffic in the area now. Fletcher Road, we have to travel Fletcher Road to get to Lou George Loop. That's like one way in and one way out. You know, you've got that, like he said, you've got that subdivision on the left side, which is Timber Lake, whatever it is. I think they're through with that area. But now they're adding to McCullough Trace on the other side of Lou George Loop. So now the people that's coming from Coleman Lake, traveling Fletcher Road to get on Lou George Loop, now you want to bring in another additional 122 garden homes, okay, and it's going to impact the traffic tremendously.
Now, I hate to cut you off. Our time's
Time has
expired.
expired.
Those arguments we've heard.
Right.
I
But
remember you from Fletcher. Yeah.
I remember you too.
Yes, thank
Okay.
you.
Mr. Shabano, would you have time to address these concerns?
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to start off by kind of referencing the county's comprehensive plan for this area. The comprehensive plan recognizes all the things that we've just heard about growth and the demand for housing here. There are long-term plans in roads and transportation. Please jump in and correct me if I misstate anything here. But there are long-term plans for the extension of Macashan Road. And there are also long-term plans for the improvement of Lou George Loop. And when those things are completed, those intersections of those roads are going to happen within a half a mile of this development. So the county recognizes that, yes, the traffic is definitely increased in this area with all of the development we've talked about. But those things are being recognized and are in some form of planning at the county. And I would like some input potentially from you guys and see, time frames on those kinds of things, because that is a lot of the basis for the reason that this land was chosen for this type of development by the developers that we're working for. They've looked at the comprehensive plan, and it looks like the perfect spot for this type of development. And so that's one of the main concerns I've heard. I also heard a question about the sewer. There was there was contact to some of the adjacent neighbors to talk about a system very similar to the last case that we heard, with treatment on site and discharge into the local branch. I would like to state emphatically that our preference is to access the Jefferson County sewer system. That inquiry to the neighboring properties is part of the ongoing process of figuring out the best way to serve this property. We're about 2,200 feet away from the nearest sanitary sewer that Jefferson County has available, so all those options are being evaluated, and that was the reason for the inquiries to the neighbors. So I'll be happy to entertain any direct
Anybody from the
questions.
commission have any questions for Mr. Schifano? Okay, you did hear the recommendation, if it's approved by the county, about a buffer. Are you willing to do that? I believe she recommended a natural 50-foot buffer and fence. 100?
100 on the report.
100, okay.
Well, yes, I did hear 50, and I would like to ask for some input from our developers. I don't know how much of an impact that would end up eventually having on our plan, so I would like to have their input as well.
You can come up, sir. I'm sorry. State your name and address, please.
So my name is Andrew Van Zant. Address is 2188 Parkway Lake, Hoover, Alabama. And just to address some of the concerns that have been made, I took some notes here and understand a lot of the opposition that's presented in these meetings. They're similar to other cases, as we just heard just a few minutes ago. As it relates to the buffer itself, we are willing to agree to a buffer. I believe a 50-foot buffer would impact our development, just as far as our efficiency of the site and how we are able to maintain proper road widths, proper lot sizes, setbacks of those things. I think in general we would like to counter as a 20-foot buffer and add that to the record, saying that we could make that work. Given the nearby zoning is an agriculture zoning, if you notice on the east side of the property, there is an existing creek. It acts as a natural buffer. I mean, it's a floodplain, floodway. It's something that can't be built in, and we are avoiding it entirely in our concept. So we would like to note that. But as far as on the west side of the property, where there are some additional residences, and on the north side of the property, where there are some additional residences, we would agree to a 20-foot buffer, just to give some sort of vegetative state, natural landscaping that's there today, and try and maintain some sort of separation between the existing A1 zoning and the proposed RG zoning. I know the main points outside of the buffer that were made, a lot of those are traffic concerns. As we address these traffic concerns, we're in progress of having a full-blown traffic study by Skipper Consulting, who I know the county uses regularly in all municipalities throughout the state. Very reputable traffic engineer that is going to provide a traffic study, and we will adhere to any and all mitigation of traffic concerns that are stated in said report. So something to keep in mind. I think the main thing that comes outside of the traffic concerns as well is it's no secret that this part of the county is growing. I think the Jefferson Economic and Industrial Development Authority, they are pushing for a large increase in industrial manufacturing. Obviously, there's a lot of retail growth, a lot of medical growth that's happening out this way. And as those projects are approved and built, we watch Smuckers down the street, 900 jobs. That's breeding new industry adjacent to that's supporting these other businesses, and there's plenty of growth out this way. And one thing that is there to point is, as these employers are building and expanding, those employers are providing employment, and people are coming out this way to be employed, to earn a living, and a part of that living, excuse me, is to own a home. And I think there's a lot of people that that have some opinions on how this is addressed, and have some feedback on what's the proper way to expand and grow. So we hear those concerns, and we'd like to address them. So that's something that as we move forward, I think that buffers, traffic studies, things of that nature, we're all willing to comply, but just want to be a part of the growth and do it the right way. I work for D.R. Horton.
Let's talk about there has been traffic studies for that area. There is in the works, traffic engineer about developing that area. I'm just going to ask you something. A 20-foot buffer is nothing. That's between me and you, okay? We're going to have to do something more than that, to be a good neighbor.
Sure, I think we want nothing to be but a good neighbor and be a part of something that is allowing us to still do these types of subdivisions. As Joe mentioned, I mean there are written on public record. I mean future expansion of Max Shane Road, Lou George Loop. I believe there's a connection to South Shades Crest Road that's proposed. So we are there. I mean the county recognizes that this is where the growth is going, and we are simply ahead of it. We may be slightly ahead of it, maybe really far ahead of it, but essentially the county is recognizing the same thing that we're recognizing and understanding that there's job growth. Job growth needs households. People want to live near where they work. John, who's the Amazon facilities manager, he lives nearby where he works in a subdivision where the density is roughly 2.5 acre or units per acre. So we are meeting that same density. We want to make sure that we're able to just exceed not exceed the proposed density of the zoning, but just do it the right way.
Anybody from the commission got a question, Mr. Van Zandt?
I don't know if you could answer this question directly, but I think that in opposition to this, there was a number of compelling statistics regarding schools for kids. And I get that people want to live where they work, but where are the kids going to school?
So, the school concern is a valid one. I understand that. I think as we've recently seen, the Jefferson County School Board has built a new school to accommodate some of these concerns. As she mentioned some of the statistics, a single child or even an average of 1.5 childs per household would not exceed the capacity of the elementary school that's been built recently in the area, and these schools are built to accommodate said growth. So we're once again just trying to fill the needs of the area, and we're mindful of the school impacts, and we want to make sure that we are mindful of the quality of the schools as well. So I think that there's some opportunity to consider for future points. If we are in fact encroaching on anything, and encroaching is maybe the wrong word. We are within our property boundaries. We're not exceeding any of the property boundaries, but if we are within a relative distance of existing residential structure, Miss McMurray's property, for example, if there's some potential relative distance to some of her structures, that's an example of an opportunity where we could consider something along those lines and further the separation, or allow ourselves to build some sort of fencing structure. So we're open to that idea, but it's just a case by case basis and making sure that we're not just fencing the subdivision just to be fencing one.
I just want you to be aware that the condition, one of the conditions is for neighborhood things on the tire. Other comment is on the sanitary sewer side. We've got health department here. What's your thought on doing an on-site system? What are y'all planning for that?
Yeah, so for as it relates to the on-site system, that is an option, and we have reached out to folks like Mr. Morris. We did send him a letter of intent to give ourselves access to said creek. But as we've gone through this due diligence process, we've understood that with some of the disadvantages to these on-site systems, that there's a large cost associated with these things. So as we further explored these options, as Joe mentioned, there's a 2,200-foot run of sewer that would need to meet the force main that sits out in front of the Timberleaf subdivision, and that's all through right-of-way. We're not seeking easements from any other landowners, so we have access to the sewer as long as we're willing to provide it. And that's something that we are willing to do. And, I think right now that the option is that we would connect into the county sewer and forego the private sewer system.
Yeah, my only concern is talking about on-site system and a direct deposit. With this being on top of it, that would be paper for direct.
Yeah, those systems are, of course, they are regulated through the Jefferson County Health Department and also permitted by the the state's environmental board. So they're up to code. They're quality systems. They are more frequent than one would think. Sewer is essentially a privilege. I mean, it's something that we, of course, can tap into, but it is something that requires it to be easily accessible. Have the ability to, obviously there are plenty of other components that can prevent sewer from being accessible to the property, but those systems are the next best option. But in this scenario, I think we're finding that is not the case. So the working with Jefferson County Environmental Services and Sewer Board is going to be the route of preference.
Any more questions?
I have some. Mr. Van Zandt, and we've talked about this. I just want to get a straight answer from my head. If you can't give me one, that's fine. Sure. So this is a zoning case. It's not a subdivision case. So we're not actually doing the plat map today. Our initial proposal was 100. It got back down to 50. You're saying 25 on some type of buffer. At what point does a vegetative buffer affect your plans for this community for it not to be a RG as opposed to another division? In other words, at what point would that buffer affect your planning for this subdivision?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So I think as I have, and the buffer concept was introduced to me today as I came to the building, and something that I've had to, essentially work with on the fly.
Well, if you're uncomfortable with it, we can always carry it over and do it another day.
I've got an answer for it, and I think in order for us to maintain the proper setbacks given through the garden zoning, and maintain the proper right-of-way widths in order for clear access to driveways and public streets, we would likely max out at a 30-foot. I mean, 20 foot is perfectly fine and probably the best option for us. But we would max out at the 30 foot. Otherwise, if we go forward with anything greater than that, it allows us to shorten our lot dimensions, and in turn really forces us to build smaller product or smaller footprint product, I should say. So, we'd like to avoid that, and we want to build the product that meets the market, meets the demand of the market. So that's something that, as we compress that within the buffer, we want to make sure we maintain the proper lot dimensions and proper street dimensions.
That's all I have right now.
Does anybody got any more questions for Mr. Van Zandt or Mr. Stefano?
I just have one, Mr. Chair, about the density.
Mm-hmm.
So there was some discussion suggesting that instead of 112 units, you have some number less than that. What would be your response to that?
Well, I mean, to carry over a comment made in the previous discussion, I think as we go through today's housing crisis, in a sense, I mean that there is a housing shortage in America. Our job is to provide housing, provide communities. One of the benefits that we get, in our office is to watch these home buyers come through and go to the closing table and get their keys and take pictures and all of those things along with that. And we are on the very front end of that process. And I don't want it to go unknown that this particular project is, we're not going to start building houses tomorrow. This is a project that, a house is not going to go vertical for another 18 months, 2 years almost. I mean, that's a projection, of course, but, there are plenty of things that have to go into this to make it get to that point. But, to answer your question, the cost of development and as it relates to putting in proper sewer and proper streets and curb and gutter, to maintain any sort of stormwater runoff. I mean, that is all things that they come with a great cost, and in order to do it the right way, we have to have enough density within these subdivisions to allocate said development cost. So that's really the main push for us to be able to, get to a point where if we reduce the density and said that, we're going to go with larger lots or whatever the case is, our goal is not to, just to do it because we can. I mean, there's a rhyme or reason, before it, so that is to put the proper infrastructure in, and the density is a crucial piece to that.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am.
Are we speaking of 112 houses or 122?
Well, 122 is on the concept, so that's the number that we're submitting.
Have we thought about less?
We can consider, but once again, the density as it relates to this particular subdivision, and really all subdivisions of this nature, not to echo, some of the things I've mentioned before, but the cost of development is substantial, and for us to accept a lesser quantity of houses, a lesser density, it's less allocation of those development expenses. So that's really our biggest issue with trying to go that route. So that would be something that would have to be considered.
Mr. Vincent, I just want to clarify something from my mind in my head. You stated you work for D.H. Horton, is that correct?
D.R. Horton.
D.R. Horton, my apologies. D.R. Horton. So y'all would not only be the developer of the property, but also the home builder, is that correct? Mm-hmm. Okay.
More questions?
I just have in my notes 112, and now it's 122 units. Okay.
Yeah, he corrected it.
Well, we'll see what the eventual subdivision plat looks like, I suppose. But
and that's a great point to make, because as we get through this, I mean the plat that's presented today is strictly a concept. It's something to provide to you guys to show that this is what our intent is. But as Joe and his group go through the process of actually designing the grading and all of the things that go into building a subdivision, that number is subject to fluctuate.
Sir, I recognize your hand, but at this point, the meeting opposition time has expired. So
the pro time has expired as well.
Okay. Has anybody got any more questions for Mr. Shabano or Mr. Van Zandt? No, sir. No, sir. No, sir. Your time's expired. I'm sorry. Sir, no, sir. No, sir. No, sir, the time has expired. Thank you. Any more questions?
It's a business decision. Mr. Chairman, at this time, I'd like to make a motion.
I need a motion on Z23-0029.
Mr. Chairman, I hereby move the approval of Z-23-0029 with the following conditions. Limit of development proposal to a density of 2.4 dwelling units per acre, as well as a woodland barrier between the development and adjacent properties of 35 feet.
I have a motion. I have a second.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
No.
Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call, please?
Aye.
No.
No.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
The final tally, please, ma'am. Okay, motion passes. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Chairman, at this time, I'd like to make a motion.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, at this time, I hereby move that we adopt the amendments to the. Can we please have quiet? Mr. Chairman, at this time, I ask that we adopt the amendments to the text of the county zoning resolution, changing the name of the Department of Land Planning and Development Services to Department of Development Services, updating language relative to the current process for zoning review and approvals as part of obtaining building permits, designating the Director of Development Services as the building official, and establishing violations of the county zoning resolution as Class B misdemeanors in accordance with Alabama Legislative Act 2023-297.
Second, Mr. Chair.
I have a motion, I have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. This meeting is adjourned, please.
I wonder whether they let me keep this to read.
Thank you.
Oh, I can go pull it up, but I'd rather read.